I feel like I need a burp, but I can't make it happen. So I guess I just won't do it.
You'll refrain out of necessity. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool.
Love you.
All right, you ready to go? Love you too.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Green Light.
The Green Light.
Spooky edition.
Ooh, spooky, spooky, spooky. It is right now October 13th. You're going to be hearing this as early as October 16th.
Yeah.
And we're in the midst of spooky season.
We are in the midst.
We are knee deep.
Halfway through.
I'd say we're waist deep then.
Yeah,
we're waist deep in spooky season right now. So, like we said before, like we said on our Instagram, if you're not following us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, go do that. Links in our description. But we got some spooky themed episodes for you. Spooky detours, spooky scripts. Our script this week is not necessarily spooky.
There's some aliens and stuff.
There are mentions of aliens at the very least. Our script this week is My Life is a Sitcom by Jeshurun Young. It's very good.
It's really fun.
I really enjoy the script, especially if you have watched a sitcom ever in your life. I think you'll really appreciate the script just because it takes a lot of tropes of sitcoms and it throws them at you. It's great. We had a great interview as well, so that's coming up for you in just a bit.
Yeah, also another fun thing, this won't be coming out for a couple more months, but this writer also sent us some other really interesting works that are very different from this one. So we actually have one of those that we're going to be reading for our road trip episode later in the year, probably coming out in December. So be on the lookout for that.
Anywho, so yes, that's what we're doing. But before we get to that, let's do a quick housekeeping things. I was going to start into it, but I'll wait for a second. So yes, we now have a YouTube channel now, in case you don't know. So go subscribe to us on that. Hit that smash that subscribe button. Absolutely demolish that subscribe button.
It.
Yeah, once again, right now we only have up some of the recordings of our episodes, but I think we're going to start doing some video content. I think it would be a good goal for us at Lauren. We haven't talked about this, but I think it would be a good goal for us to do maybe like one video a week of just different topics.
That's a lot of pressure, but I will take up
the
helm.
We'll work up to that. We'll work up to that.
Be on the lookout for some new content.
It's not going to happen next week. It's not going to happen the week after. But it is going to happen. And if you have any ideas for videos you'd like to see us do, maybe like lists. I love a list. I'll click on a list video at any time. Top 10 or something like that. We'd be happy to do something like that. So just shoot us an email. Drop us a comment on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. Speaking of which, follow us on those. Leave us a review on iTunes. Sorry, I just lost consciousness for a second there. So yes, leave us a review on iTunes.
We would love it.
Patreon also. Would be huge.
So as we have previously discussed, my birthday is next week.
Yes, that's true.
So if you're listening to this on the day this episode comes out, it's coming out in less, or not coming out. My birthday is in less than a week from the day this episode is released. So if you love me and want to give me a great birthday present, subscribe to our Patreon. We have levels as low as $1 and tons and tons of bonus content.
That's $1 a month, $12 a year. That's less than any other subscription. You can find ever.
So do it.
Yes, please.
Bet you won't.
But please do. Okay.
Also, I just realized we haven't talked about what we do here at the Green Light yet this episode.
Gosh. Yeah, true. What do we do, Lauren?
Yeah, so we read short plays and screenplays by new writers and interview them.
Yes,
and
we do.
They're awesome.
But before we get to that, we are going to do our detour segment. Once again, our spooky detour segment. I might try to put in like a scary sound effect there. Anywho, so basically we're going to talk about some spooky things we have consumed in the past week. This time, it is all movies. So,
all movies, all spooky. All brand new.
All new.
All released in the past few weeks.
I'm actually really excited about that because I feel like sometimes the stuff we watch is
we
like
did Poltergeist,
older,
older.
Which is still cool in its own right, but it'll give you, if you are wondering whether you should watch these movies, you can listen to us and then get sort of an idea of what it could be. So, we have 3, so we're going to be kind of brief on each of them, and what I want to do is I want to go in order of worst to first. Whichever one we like the least, to whichever one we like the most. And Lauren and I are going to start off with our least favorite on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Happy
Vampires
Halloween,
vs. the Bronx.
Scooby-Doo.
Okay.
I know. I knew that you were going to say that.
Okay.
I respect your opinion.
How about we do Vampires vs. the Bronx first, because then that's live action, animated live action.
That's fine.
Okay,
yeah.
cool. So we're going to start with Vampires vs. the Bronx. Lauren has some specs for us.
All right. So the summary is Vampires vs. the Bronx is a 2020 comedy horror film directed by Rodriguez, and written by
also known
the
as
same
Oz
guy
Rodriguez.
and Blaze Hemingway. Oh, that's true, Oz Rodriguez.
Yeah.
The film follows a group of teenagers who are forced to protect their neighborhood in the Bronx when a gathering of vampires invades. So basically, there are these vampires that invade, and it's kind of under the premise of gentrification.
Yes.
Like, it's a bunch of white people coming in, buying up all the properties, and all these people in their neighborhood in the Bronx are just kind of disappearing. It's supposed to be like they moved out, but it's a little sus.
It is very sus. Yeah.
Yeah, very sus. But yeah, it's basically these kids that's mostly these three boys trying to protect their neighborhood, save their neighborhood against all the odds.
Yeah. That is true.
Yeah. So let's see. It was, we already talked about the writer and the director. Some of the cast, Sarah Gadon, Coco Jones, Method Man, The Kid Marrow, Gregory Diaz IV, Shea Wiggum, Chris Redd, Vladimir Camaño. I'm sorry.
Did you say Jaden Michael?
I did not. Him too, and Zoe Saldana.
Yeah. So essentially, Zoe Saldana actually, she's in the movie for 2 seconds.
Very, very little.
Literally 2 seconds. This movie sort of stars a lot of unknowns and mostly kids. It sort of stars these three sort of teenage kids who live in the Bronx. And my personal opinion, a lot of movies that star kids really comes down to whether you like the kid actors.
For sure.
Some movies have been ruined for me just because I just do not like the kids who are the main characters.
You do not like them?
I do not like them. That is right. So, I will say, I did really like the three main kids in this one.
Yeah,
I thought they did a great job. They have good chemistry. They got a good vibe going. Hold on. This is me returning from sneezing 3 times. You probably didn't hear it, but I'm gonna be down and out. Lauren, say something for a second.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I thought this movie was fun. I really like the kind of. Okay, should I just start over?
No, keep going.
Okay. I really like the gimmick of sort of having the supernatural beings that are vampires, who are canonically, obviously, white, very pale.
Very pale boys and girls.
Yes. And just kind of turning that into a gentrification thing, and being
I really like that premise too.
Yeah.
I really do.
I thought that was really cool. My only, I guess, criticism is that premise is sort of revealed in its entirety in the trailer.
Yeah.
And we see it play out in the movie, but there aren't a ton of surprises, IMO.
I agree. And I love, like I said, I love the chemistry. Most of the acting, I would say, is great overall.
Yeah.
I love the premise. I think it's really cool. Past that, I would say it's a very paint by the numbers, doesn't surprise you. It is what it is.
You probably won't be scared.
That's
Too
true.
Scared.
I mean, what did you think of the comedy in this movie, Lauren?
I thought it was fun. I wasn't rolling, but it was fun.
I think it was fun. I wouldn't necessarily say it was laugh out loud funny.
No, definitely not.
So,
the funniest line, I mean, it's in the trailer, so we could talk about it.
We'll wait, because just in case people haven't seen the trailer, I don't want to spoil the funniest line of the movie for them. And I wish there was more of that. I wish there was more, because I feel like that's sort of a subversion of a trope.
Oh, for sure. It was funny.
Whereas most of the movie, I feel like, once again, is kind of
it took itself
by
a little
the book,
too seriously,
paint by the numbers. Yeah. I wish it would have been a little more stylized, maybe.
Yeah.
I feel like for the most part, it was sort of shot in a very basic way, yada, yada.
Well, especially, for example, okay, because I think of, the Twilight parody vampires suck, right? Where it's just, gory in a ridiculous way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, it's not scary, and it's not even that gross because it's so clearly fake.
Yeah.
And I think that some of that, kind of over-the-top stuff, I guess, would have helped this a little bit, just on the vampire side.
Yeah, and I think, once again, this movie follows 3 teenagers, and I feel like you could have used that in a way, especially because it's kind of from their perspective, and they did that a little bit with,
the notebook and stuff, writing down, how to fight the vampires.
But even then, I was it was, kind of half done, whatever. Granted, now, I've said a lot of, criticisms about this movie. This is a good movie. It's a fun watch.
It is.
you're not gonna waste. It's a
enjoy
tight. It is a tight, like either 86 or 96 minutes.
No, yeah, I think it's like an hour 26.
It's a very brief movie, so it's not gonna waste too much of your time. And once again, it's a good thing.
It's not a waste to begin with.
And it deals with some important issues.
Yeah,
it really does.
Well, because it also talks about, of course, gentrification, but it also talks about, the vampires wanted to. Sorry, I bumped the table. The vampires wanted to move to this neighborhood because they were like, there are all these people here and no one will care if they go missing.
Yeah, that's mentioned a couple times, yeah.
Yeah, and it's obviously it's really sad to think about how, a lot of people view people in neighborhoods in the Bronx as somewhat dispensable. We also saw that, if any of you saw the first Purge, it was in kind of like a lower income area where the government sort of viewed these people as dispensable. And was like, oh, well, we can just try this on them first, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, again, the premise is really cool. I thought the message was great.
Yeah, I agree. Overall, though, it's not going to surprise you, but a fun movie. I did think this was interesting. One thing, on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 95% critic score, but only a 49% audience score. And I was looking at some of the audience ratings. Some of it is just racist people who are like, oh, this is a race baiting, racial, whatever. Gross. And it's like, shut up. You don't get it, you're stupid, stop it. But some people, I think, had valid criticism, sort of like what we were talking about. I would rate this probably like a 3.5 star movie.
Out of 5?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
I was like, oh my gosh, that's so low.
Yes, out of 5. It's a good movie, it's a solid watch, and it's on Netflix, so...
Yeah, I mean, 3.5 stars out of 5 sounds right, because I probably did like a 7 out of 10, so that sounds about right.
Okay, so that's Vampires vs. the Bronx on Netflix.
Check it out, it's on Netflix.
Yes. So our second favorite, I guess, my second favorite movie, Lauren's least favorite of the 3, but what I still think is a good one.
It was still good.
Happy Halloween, Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. So this one, Scooby and the gang join forces with Bill Nye and Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, when toxic ooze creates an army of monstrous pumpkins.
Yes.
Yeah. So this was released on October 6, 2020. So this year, it was
literally
directed
a week
by
ago,
Maxwell
by the time
Adams.
we're recording this.
Screenplay also by Maxwell Adams. Music by Robert J. Crowell. And then starring, that is the cast of Vampires. Okay. Cassandra Peterson, Bill Nye, Matthew Lillard, Gray Delisle. Sorry, Gray Delisle. Yeah, who actually looks like Elvira, so I assume that's Elvira. Frank Welkner, Kate McCucci, Dwight Schultz, and Mindy Cohn. Okay.
Yes.
I got through that.
Yes, there you go. Good job, Lauren. Good job.
Okay. It has a 6.7 out of 10 on IMDb, 3 out of 5 on Metascore, I think.
Okay, cool.
That sounds right. But yeah, I thought it was fun. It's very Scooby-Doo. It's exactly what you think of when you think of Scooby-Doo.
Yes. Essentially, it's, I don't know if we talked about the plot. Did we? Did you say anything?
I said the plot, yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah.
Monstrous pumpkins.
Basically just giant pumpkins and some normal-sized pumpkins chasing them around. If you love Scooby-Doo, you'll love this movie. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. I think you could definitely tell it came out this year because they do make some timely jokes, which some of them hit, some of them didn't. Yeah. Whatever. But, it definitely takes you back, and there are some legitimately funny moments, I would say. I think Bill Nye is actually used pretty well in this.
I agree.
There are a couple really funny moments involving him.
And at one point, there's like a hologram of him in like the new mystery mobile that he gives them. Yes. And he's like there live with them, but from a remote location, at his house. And at one point he has to leave the hologram when they like really need him to go talk to trick-or-treaters. Yeah. And he goes and is like giving them all of these scientific facts about what their costumes really should look like and yada, yada, yada.
He does that for like half an hour, 45 minutes. Yeah. it's really good the way
you hear the parent like, can we wrap this up?
Yeah. And another fun thing, this is kind of a crossover with the Batman universe. I haven't seen any of the Batman Scooby-Doo crossovers, but Dr. Jonathan Crane, aka Scarecrow, is in this, which is a kind of fun thing. It's also,
I didn't even realize that was like canonically the same Scarecrow. I thought that they were just two different Scarecrow villains.
Nope, same guy.
Went over my head.
Yeah. Also, it's great to hear Matthew Lillard again. Yeah. As Shaggy. He is the definitive Shaggy, 100%. That's him. No denying it. So great to see him. What would you say this in comparison to Scoob?
Well, now I'm trying to remember everything.
Greater than or less than?
I mean, I enjoyed Scoob more personally.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But like this was still fun, and again, it's just like
fun.
This
is classic Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, this is classic Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Scoob was a little more modernized, but
for sure.
I think like with this, I just think if you really like classic Scooby-Doo, you just want to see basically a Scooby-Doo movie that you haven't seen before. This is it. Yeah. I think Scoob is just more of a modern take.
For sure. I can agree with that. Okay, one other thing that I want to talk about in regards to this film. You might hate me for this. Elvira? Elvira.
Why are you making that face at me? No.
Well, is Elvira a member of the Hex Girls canonically?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know, though.
Someone's gonna fry us for getting this potentially wrong, but it just reminded me of the Hex Girls and Young Jackson with the Hex Girls. I mean, it was a thing. It was a thing.
Okay.
You get it. Lauren
I really don't have any memory, to be honest.
is shaking her head in disappointment.
I am.
I think she's just hiding her true feelings. It's okay. You can let them out on this podcast. It's a safe space, Lauren. I promise.
It did crack me up when, so Daphne is basically trying to steal her identity this whole time.
Yes.
She becomes like her intern or whatever, her mentee.
Yeah, which that's a funny
pretty
plot
funny.
line for
but,
sure.
Elvira takes off her wig and it turns out to be not quite a wig.
Oh my goodness. That was the most shocking part of the entire film for me.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I
was absolutely just blown away by that whole thing.
Anyway, so watch that movie if for no other reason but for that.
To find out what Elvira's real wig is. Yes. So
it's
Happy Halloween
free,
Scooby-Doo,
yes.
I believe between $4 and $5 on Amazon Prime or just Amazon in general. It's a good watch, especially, we've said this before, especially if you have young kids. This is one that the kiddos and the adultos can all enjoy.
The adultos.
Yes.
Yeah, it was fun.
Okay, so the final movie that we're talking about,
here we go. My favorite as well.
3, 2, 1. Hubie Halloween. Let that sink in for a second, because yes, we did say that.
Yep. Okay, so Adam Sandler obviously was recently in Uncut Gems. Got a little bit of Oscar buzz for it, whatever. Yes. And then he said something along the lines of, like, if this doesn't win the Oscar, I'm going to make the worst movie ever.
Yes.
And then this is the next movie he's made. So, Hubie Halloween. It's October 31st in Salem, Massachusetts, and the town's eccentric, devoted community volunteer and the good-natured object of his fellow citizens' derision and meanest pranks finds himself in the midst of a real investigation for a real murderer.
Yes.
Okay, so Adam Sandler is this guy Hubie. He is technically named Hubert Schubert Dubois.
Yes.
So Hubie every year, because Salem, Massachusetts is kind of like the home base of Halloween.
Sure, Salem witch trials,
yeah, where the witch trials were. So he volunteers every Halloween to make sure everyone stays safe. It's
the
Adam
Halloween
Sandler.
hall monitor, if you will, for the town.
he uses a kind of funny voice. There's so many scenes of him riding on his bike and people are just chucking stuff at him.
Yes.
And throughout the movie, they get bigger. Like at one point towards the end, someone just throws a cinder block at him.
There's a cinder block. There's a TV thrown at him. I think there's a Molotov cocktail thrown at him at one point.
Yeah.
And in these moments, Hubie really shows his dexterity. He's quite
crazy.
Dexterous.
Yeah, very
As
dexterous.
a man, yes.
And his whole house is decorated with Halloween decorations. Sorry, I bumped the table.
That's okay.
Okay, so let's talk about the cast of this movie. So obviously Adam Sandler, Noah Schnapp, Paris Barelk. I don't know. Those are some of the younger people that I don't know as well. But there are also tons of SNL people in this. Maya Rudolph is in this.
Kevin James, Ray Liotta, Steve Buscemi, Rob Schneider, Tim Meadows. Shaq's in this.
Peyton List is in this, if you are familiar with Disney Channel.
Kenan Thompson. Basically,
also Bradley Steven.
Ben Stiller has a quick little cameo.
Charlie.
So basically, if you're familiar with a lot of Adam Sandler comedies, just think of the cast of those, and that's pretty much the cast of this.
Yeah.
Besides Chris Rock, actually. Chris Rock wasn't in this, and
True.
David Spade wasn't in this.
Yeah.
So
because we thought he was going to show up, and then he didn't.
Yes. Pretty much everyone
also
else,
Shaquille O'Neal is in this.
I think I said that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
No worries. Okay, so Adam Sandler movies are very much hit or miss.
Yeah.
And when they miss, they're in a different zip code. When they hit, they kind of hit. The Longest Yard, the 2004 remake, is probably my favorite football movie. It's very good, it's very funny. Here's why I think this movie works. some of the comedy is over the top, classic Adam Sandler, whatever.
Yeah.
A lot of the comedy actually works really well.
Yeah.
But the real reason why I think this movie works is because of Adam Sandler's character, Hubie.
He is so wholesome.
Hubie is very wholesome. He's very much someone you can root for. And while some of Adam Sandler's characters, especially when he's being very character-y, which he is here, can sort of feel like just you just can't attach to them. You can't find anything that you like, any similarities. So It's hard to grasp onto them. Hubie is someone that I feel like you can be like,
Hubie is someone we all kind of know.
Yeah, exactly. And he has a heart of gold, and some of the humor comes from that. It's not just humor about, it's not just crude humor that sometimes his movies are. It's sometimes movies about just this guy and this character.
He's trying so hard.
Yeah, and I think that's why this movie succeeds.
And he also gets scared really easily. There are a lot of scenes where he just freaks out.
Yeah, and it's like, it's fun. It's a fun, like, it's not the most wild, crazy story, but it's fairly imaginative, I would say, and there's a lot of fun aspects to it.
There are a lot of good gimmicks in it. One thing I really like is the Swiss Army thermos that he has.
Yes, we have to talk about that.
Okay, so he canonically has this thermos that he carries with him everywhere for soup. Obviously.
Yes.
He made it when he was in Boy Scouts. But in this movie, off the top of my head, here are the things I can think of. It has a grappling hook. Mm-hmm. It has a flashlight.
A megaphone.
A megaphone. Gosh, what else? It has a hairdryer.
Yes. He probably uses it upwards of 15 times.
Oh, it has a shovel?
Yeah, for different things. And it's so funny, we were talking about this. It's so funny how many of those thermoses, like, the props department had to make.
Yeah.
With just,
there's
like,
a candle at one point.
There is a
candle. He's, like, sitting on the toilet, and there's a candle coming out of the thermos.
See, that's the kind of, like, fun, imaginative things that I think is why this movie succeeds.
I agree.
A lot of the humor is in stuff like that, and is in, like, there are a lot of also allusions to, like, different horror movies in this, and I think that's also kind of what makes it fun too.
Yeah.
Adam Sandler said he was gonna make the worst movie ever, and if this was the worst movie ever, then that's okay.
I'll take it.
Because it really is an enjoyable movie. Now, I'll say, within the first 30 seconds, I literally said, this movie is horrible. That came out of my mouth.
This is the worst movie I've ever seen.
And I stood by that for about another couple minutes, and then I kept watching, and Hubie really grabs those heartstrings, and he's like, he just tugs on him. He's like, hey, I'm just gonna go, and I'm gonna be the hall monitor Halloween of this town. I'm just gonna do my thing. Bye-bye. Yeah. I want what's best for everyone. And the ending, while it's not like super wild and like you could probably guess it, it does kind of have like a fun,
there's a little surprise there.
Fun moral to it as well. Yeah. So
yeah, Hubie Halloween. Or not Hubie's, Hubie Halloween.
Hubie doobie doo.
Yep. At one point they do go Hubie doobie mine.
Yes.
Pretty good.
Yeah. So
yeah, definitely recommend. It was a lot of fun.
It's a good movie. It's a good movie, and I can't believe I'm saying that. I really can't.
No.
And I can't believe this was my favorite out of the three.
Yeah.
But it just
No, but literally,
again,
was. You're going to think it's bad right at the beginning. Give it like 5-10 minutes. It'll get you.
You'll see Adam Sandler throw up, and you'll want to turn it off. But hold on, hang in there, give it a watch. It's pretty good. Okay, so those are our 3 movies. Let us know in the comments or whatever what you've watched this recently for Halloween.
Reviews.
Yeah,
or
in your reviews. Yes, do that. Leave it in your 5-star reviews, and we'll read it on the air. But I think now we can move on.
That's it. Yeah, so when we come back, we will be reading, like we said, My Life is a Sitcom by Jeshurun Young.
And boom.
Everybody, welcome back to the Green Light.
Green Light. It's us again.
It's us. So, you might notice that you're not hearing any other people right now.
Just us.
And that is because this play has a pretty big cast. There are like
cast.
6 characters.
Yes.
We do have someone reading a role and also doing stage direction, so there will only be 6 of us, but we could not crowd 6 people around our 2 microphones. So what we're going to do is kind of go back to our roots a little bit.
Yes.
Use the old Zoom mic, not in the closet, just in the middle of the floor, all huddled around the mic.
Yes.
So the sound quality might sound like a little bit different.
Yeah.
But, It'll be fine.
It'll be good.
We're just giving you the heads up.
Yeah, we've actually, a little bit of podcast editing magic. We've actually already recorded it.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty fun read. It's a good time.
I'm very excited.
Yeah. So we're going to get into, everyone's going to say who they're reading for, etc., etc. But you're about to hear us read My Life is a Sitcom by Jeshurun Young.
Enjoy.
I'm Blake, and I'll be reading for Jeffrey.
I'm Will, and I'll be reading for Mr. Beckham.
I'm Lauren, and I'll be reading for Joe.
I'm Jacob, and I'll be reading for Kenny.
I'm Jackson, and I'll be reading for Whit.
I'm Bailey, and I'll be reading stage directions and Amy. Whit sits at a desk. To his right is Joe, his best friend. To his left is an empty desk. Behind him sits Kenny. Mr. Beckham sits at his desk while Jeffrey gives a presentation.
And that is what proves that JFK did not die in 1963, but actually went on to become one of the most influential players in the treaty between the human and reptilian parties during the Intergalactic Space Conference of 1972.
Jeffrey returns to his seat as the room claps unenthusiastically.
Thank you, Jeffrey, for that informative essay on how aliens started the Vietnam War. Next up is Whit.
Whit gets up to give his essay when Mr. Beckham gets a notification on his phone.
Oh, my pizza's here.
Mr. Beckham gets up and crosses the room to leave.
But you're supposed to grade my essay.
Okay then. Kenny, you grade it.
What? Don't let Kenny grade me.
Yeah, Kenny's the worst.
You guys act like I'm not even here.
Even Jeffrey would be better.
Everyone looks at Jeffrey, who is currently putting on a tinfoil hat.
You're right. Joe, you grade him. Oh, and Whit, remember that this essay makes up half of your first semester grade?
Mr. Beckham leaves the room.
You hear that? I'm grading your essay.
Okay, whatever.
Tread carefully, Whit Peterson. Your life is in my hands.
Yeah, just be quiet already.
Tread carefully.
The prompt I was given was, what does TV mean to you?
Really? This is a history class.
May I continue?
You may.
Thank you. Now, what does TV mean to me? Well, to answer that question, we travel to the day November 18th, 1947.
Your grandmother's birthday?
What? No. Well, yes. But no. Something much more important. A little show called Mary Kay and Johnny was broadcast live for the world to see. This show went on to be known as the first sitcom to ever appear on TV. A legacy that has impacted me more than my own mother. From Frasier to Friends to Seinfeld, sitcoms have impacted me in more ways than I can think of.
They've certainly taken a toll on your social life.
Ooh, you need some ice for that burn?
Shut up, Kenny. You don't have any friends.
Hey, I'll have you know that my neighbor Mrs. Addington and I are great friends.
Holding up a partially finished scarf.
She's teaching me how to crochet.
You think you've seen it all, and then bam, Kenny.
Some people think sitcoms are all just fun and games, but they've taught me some real-life lessons. Arrested Development taught me how to not extort money from the family business. Community taught me what to do if I was ever caught in a campus-wide paintball fight. And Malcolm in the Middle taught me how to put up with my dysfunctional family while being an intellectually advanced genius.
Your family is neither dysfunctional nor are you a genius.
Even as a kid, Dog with a Blog taught me what to do if I ever came into possession of a talking animal.
So you're saying the legacy of sitcoms is that they teach you how to solve your non-existent problems?
Yes, but that's not the only reason they're important to me. You see, the real reason I love sitcoms so much is that I'm living inside of one.
What?
It's true. This is all part of a TV show, and I'm the main character.
You know that right now even Jeffrey sounds more believable than you.
The only reason you don't believe me is that you've all got microchips in your heads. But not me. I removed mine.
Taking off his tinfoil hat and showing them a scar on his forehead, then holding up a knife.
I could remove yours too if you want.
I'll pass, but ask me again sometime.
Okay. But don't come running to me when the lizard people turn you into mindless soldiers for their interplanetary war against the freed Martian states, and there's nothing you can do about it.
What? I don't want to kill any Martians. They always seem so nice on Sesame Street. Take mine out.
Jeffrey goes to cut Kenny's head open, but Whit stops them.
Jeffrey, no! We talked about this. There are no microchips in our heads.
You're right. They're beaming their commands into our heads from space.
Jeffrey puts the tinfoil hat back on his head, then gets out a roll of foil and begins constructing one for Kenny.
Somehow I can see how they think the government is beaming thoughts into our heads, but what I still don't get is why you think that you're living and are the main character of a sitcom.
Think about it. This classroom is the perfect setting. There are only 5 kids in the class. The teacher's never here half the time, and even when he is here, he doesn't do any teaching.
Mr. Beckham enters, carrying a pizza box in one hand and a slice in the other. An audience cheering can be heard, and everyone looks around confused.
It is I, your teacher. I have returned bearing pizza.
Mr. Beckham starts handing out pizza before sitting down at his desk.
Jeffrey, why do you have a knife? You know what? Never mind. I don't care. But if someone gets cut, someone else is going to have to call the ambulance. I left my phone in the car and it's just so far away.
Mr. Beckham, I didn't get a slice.
No one cares, Kenny.
Oh, and there's that! Kenny's a guy we all make fun of despite being a nice person. Like Jerry from Parks and Rec.
I love that show.
No one cares!
Then there's Jeffrey. He's crazy enough that we should be worried, but he's funny enough that we're not.
You're only laughing because they're putting funny pills in your food. That's why I always take the cheese off my pizza, in case they cook them into the sauce.
He takes the cheese off the pizza, checking for pills in the sauce.
Nope. We're good.
Then there's you. The female best friend with a unisex name like Elliot from Scrubs.
I'll have you know that Jo is short for Joannaphine.
Joannaphine?
My parents couldn't decide between Joanna and Josephine, so they just combined the two.
I would have gone with Josephanna, but to each their own.
What about you, though? Everyone else has some shtick going for them. Why are you the main character of this alleged sitcom?
Isn't it obvious? I'm the lovable loser who's secretly in love with the girl who sits next to him. Like Jim from The Office.
What?
Oh, no, not you. I see how that's confusing now.
And this, students, is what we call an awkward situation. Don't say I never taught you anything. Seriously, if they find out I'm not teaching you, I'll have to start doing my job.
But don't you see it now? It's the perfect setting for a high school sitcom.
Or a really bad anime.
Haha, very funny. But you know that the only way my life could be more like a sitcom is if my best friend were secretly in love with me.
Yeah, wouldn't it be, like, totally crazy if I was, like, secretly in love with you or whatever? Like, you know, how's your day going?
Good?
Wait, if you're not in love with me, that means you're in love with...
Amy walks into the room, texting on her cell phone. An audience cheering can be heard, and everybody looks around confusedly again.
Amelia Rose Taylor.
Did everybody else hear that, or am I just going crazy?
They're coming for me!
Crawling under his desk.
I knew I shouldn't have posted that expose over the rising cuckoo population.
To the ceiling.
You laugh now, but I'll be laughing over your graves. All 150 of them.
Wait, why do you know her middle name?
Don't worry about it. I definitely didn't go through her purse.
Sorry I'm late. Me and my boyfriend were, like, totally gonna ditch school, but then my friend Emma found him making out with Erica Summers, so I was just like, we are over. Then I totally blocked him on Instagram, so I guess I'm here now.
Just in time. Wit was just giving an essay on how he thinks he's Jim from The Office or something like that.
That's not exact. I guess you're really pretty. Please help me. My mouth isn't working.
Oh my god, I love The Office!
Really? It's my favorite show.
I like The Office.
The British version doesn't count.
You just don't understand British comedy.
They just don't understand comedy.
My favorite episode is Casino Night. Jim and Pam's first kiss is, like, so romantic. Though you could argue their first kiss was actually
The
the
Dundies.
The two lock eyes, staring for a moment before Amy looks away.
That jerk Derek's probably kissing Erica Summers right now.
I want to kiss your face.
What?
Nothing. Come on, I'm dying out here.
You see her every day. Just talk like a normal person.
She wasn't single then. Now she's available and my brain's exploding. Do you know how long I've had a crush on her?
Well, have you ever made a move?
I smelled her hair once.
Ew, gross.
It smelled like apples and cinnamon.
You're describing Apple Crisp.
I know.
Just ask her out already. You're going from lovable loser to creepy stalker real fast.
I can't do that.
Sure you can. Do you want to go out with her?
Yeah?
Then ask her.
Okay, here I go.
Whit turns back to Amy, but just stares.
I can't do it.
Why not?
My mouth makes words, but not now.
Whatever, just turn around, I'll tell you what to say.
Whit turns back to Amy.
Will you
go
go out with me?
Me?
Yes.
Yes!
Great! What?
Mr. Beckham, my goldfish died and I'd like to go home now.
Joe gets up to leave.
Wait!
Joe stops and turns around,
I don't know why I said that. It's like somebody made me or something.
pointing towards the ceiling.
It's the government. Save yourself before they take your mind forever.
Jeffrey throws a tinfoil hat at Joe.
No! It's the writers.
What?
It's true. This is the dreaded mid-season twist.
What are you talking about?
Today is the last day of the semester. If each school year is one season, then this is the mid-season twist. The whole time I've been drooling over Amy, Joe's been drooling over me.
Drooling is a strong word.
And now, they're making me choose between my best friend and the girl I've been in love with for 2 years. The bastards.
I'm confused.
Nobody cares, Kenny.
Wait, you've been in love with me for 2 years?
Oh, Amy, I've been in love with you since the day we met. Which was, yes, 2 years ago.
So you think that some writers out in Hollywood are writing you into a love triangle because people have nothing better to do on a Friday night than watch you decide which classmate you want to go out with?
Pausing to think, looking out towards the audience, then back towards Joe.
Yes.
I just don't get it. Why do you think your life is a sitcom? Does the whole world revolve around you and this little made-up fantasy show you've created?
Well, I am the main character.
How stupid are you?
Think about it this way. If my life is not a sitcom, then how else can you possibly explain not one, but 2 women saying yes to go on a date with me?
Everyone stops to think, realization crossing their faces. Oh, that makes sense. I thought I just wanted to get back at Derek by posting pictures with you on Twitter, but this makes much more sense.
Maybe it's not the government or the lizard people. Maybe it was the writers the whole time.
I am still lost.
So, Whit, guess this is it. The big climax. Who are you gonna pick? Me or Amy?
Well, let's see.
Looking back and forth between the two.
I don't know. I've never been in a love triangle before. It's really stressful.
Well, I'm not waiting around. I'm in a text chain with Derek's friend Brandon, and I think he likes me.
Yeah, Whit, we're not waiting forever. God knows I've waited long enough.
If I had to choose...
Wiping the sweat off his brow.
I choose... Wait. I don't have to choose.
What?
It's true. If this really is a sitcom, then the ending's already laid out for me. The writers already know who I'm going to choose because they've written the ending.
Okay, now I'm confused.
It's simple. I'll let fate decide. I'll close my eyes and randomly point to one of you. The writers know who I'm supposed to end up with, so when I open my eyes, I'll be pointing to my one true love. My soulmate.
You sure about this?
I'm more sure about this than I've been about anything in my whole life.
So, like, 2%.
Ha ha ha, very funny.
Shutting his eyes, extending his arm and pointed finger.
I choose...
Mr. Beckham, I have to use the bathroom.
Kenny gets up and walks towards the door.
I choose you!
Whit opens his eyes to reveal he is pointing at Kenny, who's standing between him and Joe.
Kenny?
Sorry, man, I don't swing that way. Honored you chose me, though.
Extending his arm for a fist bump.
Put it there.
Whit reluctantly fist bumps Kenny, falling to his knees as Kenny walks off stage. The bell rings.
Looks like that's it for class. I'm out. Gotta work off this pizza. With more pizza.
Mr. Beckham leaves the room, looking at her phone. Oh my god. Brandon wants to meet by the tennis courts. Maybe he wants to make out. Sorry about your sitcom being canceled or whatever. See you later, Joe.
Yeah, see ya.
Amy leaves the room looking at her phone. Jeffrey walks over to Whit. He takes the tinfoil cap off of his head and puts it on Whit.
You need this more than I do.
Jeffrey leaves the room. Whit falls over, laying on his side.
It was all a lie. There's no sitcom, no writers. Just Kenny. Stupid, stupid Kenny.
You know, if Kenny hadn't been there, you would have been pointing at me.
Really?
Yeah. Sure, maybe you didn't end up pointing to your soulmate or whatever, but maybe the writers don't know how everything is gonna go.
So you still think my life is a sitcom?
No, definitely not. You're totally bonkers.
That I may be.
C+, by the way.
What?
Your essay? Mr. Beckham said I get to grade it. You get a C+.
C+? My mom's gonna kill me!
I know.
So you still want to go out?
Give it a few more seasons. Ross and Rachel, you know?
Yeah, I know.
Joe leaves the room.
Wait, Ross and Rachel? This is the first season!
Blackout.
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Green Light.
Green light?
We are here with our writer of the week, Jeshurun Young. Welcome, how are you doing?
Doing good.
Great.
Awesome.
Now, we always typically ask our guests this. What part of the country are you in?
I'm coming from Kent, Ohio, so just outside of Kent State University.
Okay,
Oh,
cool.
okay, cool. How close? Do you know how close that is to Chillicothe?
I am not entirely sure.
Okay.
No, that's fine. Jackson was just joking.
Yeah.
I worked in Chillicothe for a summer.
Yeah.
I guess a year ago.
Yeah, she did a show up there. So that's really my only connection to Ohio, which is why I asked.
So, let's just jump right in. So we always ask everyone this, as you might know. What is your writer origin story?
So I would say I've been, writing pretty much my whole life, but not quite. I know a lot of it started me and my friend. We started writing this comic series when we were in 5th grade. And it was like a Doctor Who parody. We called it Dalek Boy and Cybergirl. So that was we did it kind of like a newspaper type comic.
Nice.
But I didn't start really writing until I came up with this idea that I've been working on for years. It was actually in the other ones. That's where the tragedy of Resin comes from. Is basically I started writing that in around 6th grade. That world.
Wow.
So I tried writing I've tried writing novels quite a few times and never got far. And I started really picking up in plays a year or two ago, because my high school one-act festival was coming up, and I wanted to write a one-act for that. So we were reading Macbeth in junior year last year, and I decided I'm going to try to write, a Shakespearean-style tragedy in one act, and that was about to get produced. Last year, we were in the middle of a rehearsal when we got the announcement that Ohio was getting shut down for the coronavirus.
Wow.
So that never got produced.
So close.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah, for everyone listening, we are going to talk more about that world and those works a bit later.
Yeah. That's so interesting, too, and I won't talk about it too long, but that you said you started that in 6th grade? I think that's so cool.
It all started, essentially, I found a stick in the woods and was pretending to be like a character, and then decided to try to make the world he's from. And then over years and years and years of rewriting the story, I got to where it is now.
Wow. That's impressive.
You can definitely tell reading it that, many years of work has gone into this, for sure.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, let's talk about the script that we're reading, My Life is a Sitcom.
Yeah.
So I the first time I read this, I absolutely loved this script. I have actually a lot of history with sitcoms. My family love sitcoms. When I was growing up, I've seen like Wings, Frasier, King of Queens, stuff like that. I've seen those many times through.
Seinfeld.
I haven't seen Seinfeld. Sorry, Lauren. Lauren loves Seinfeld. But, a lot of those sitcoms, and then, as I've grown older, things like The Office, Community, things you reference in here, sitcoms have sort of been my jam for a while. So I've loved this script. So I just wonder, what is your history with sitcoms, and what inspired you to write a story like this?
Probably my history starts with Parks and Rec. That was the first one, because I had watched, grew up watching MacGyver and Star Trek and all these other, old like 80s, 90s, sci-fi or other shows. But, when I got recommended watch Parks and Rec, I started it, and the first season's slow, so I started watching it, wasn't interested, but then my brother started watching it, and I started around season 2 or 3, and as a friend group, we watched the whole thing. I rewatched it again, and I've probably watched it 4 4 times all the way through.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was my first one. And from there, it just, kept going.
Spiral,
Right.
of course. Yeah. So question for you. This is a heated debate, I feel like, among a lot of people.
Huh.
Which do you like better, Parks and Rec or The Office?
I've only seen The Office through once. And from that watch, I think I liked it better.
Ooh, I like
but
that.
I think Parks and Rec has more rewatch value for me, just given the fact that I've rewatched it so many times. But I only got through about 2 seasons of The Office when I went to rewatch it, but I've seen Parks and Rec so many more, so I think it has more rewatch value.
That's so
Okay,
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah, I've probably watched The Office. There are some episodes of The Office that I've seen in double digits. I've rewatched it full probably like 4 or 5 times. And I probably
crazy.
watched Parks and Rec like 2 or 3 times all the way through too. So I love both of those shows.
I barely
Yeah,
ever rewatch
and-
anything personally, but
Yeah. And as to where I came up with the idea for this play, it actually started from kind of a joke with our, friend group, because our house was always the house everyone came to. By the time we were in high school, we'd show up at our house and people would be in our living room eating our food, playing video games, and we weren't even home.
That's so funny.
So we always joked around that if, we would make a great sitcom called Weekend at Cassandra's, because everyone would always come over at the for the weekend.
huh.
And basically I took that whole idea of, somebody sitting and thinking my life is a good setup for a sitcom, and instead of thinking my life would make a good sitcom, they actually thought my life is a sitcom.
Yeah.
So
Huh.
That's really cool.
So, moving on to our next question, why did you choose to write this as a play as opposed to potentially a short film or even a pilot?
So why it wouldn't be a pilot, simply because I don't think I would have more material necessarily
Sure.
for this specific cast. I do have something related to the cast, but I'll go into that later. There is, what's it called? For the Why It's a Play, that's for the One Act Festival. Basically, when I wrote my, drama play, the one girl in class, she was like, oh, it'll be good. But the comedies are always the best. So I thought, I'll write a comedy. And I started writing another comedy, didn't like it, never finished it. And then I came up with this one and I wrote the whole play in 10 hours. I started at 10 o'clock at night and finished at 8 in the morning.
Sheesh.
Because I loved the play. So, that's why I really basically developed it for the stage, because I knew exactly where it was going to get produced.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Cool.
It's also sort of interesting just to think about it, in the context of the story, it working as a play, because it almost even further removes that idea of it being a sitcom and this idea sort of being in Whit's head. And we sort of talk about, we have a question about that in a little bit, but it's cool because it's like he's convinced he's in a sitcom and yet you have a full audience watching him in a play. And so it's like this weird, this fun little
Yeah, it's
layers
like
you
ironic.
have.
I don't know. It's
Yeah,
fun.
exactly. So I think that's a cool aspect of it. So let's talk about the characters for a little bit. Obviously, you mentioned in the play that Kenny is inspired by Jerry from Parks and Rec. Are there any other characters in the play who are directly inspired by other sitcom characters?
Yeah, so when I wrote this, I had just gotten finished watching both Scrubs and Mr. Iglesias on Netflix.
Okay.
So Joe, I think, was heavily inspired by Marisol, her character, just kind of that dynamic. Same with Jeffrey. He's straight Lucas from Mr. Iglesias. I want to say Whit. I don't know if I necessarily have a specific inspiration for Whit. He's just kind of supposed to be your standard sitcom protagonist. And then Mr. Beckham, he is inspired by, I forget the guy's name, but the guy from AP Bio.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
Like the whole bad teacher doesn't do his job.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
That kind of thing.
Sure.
No, that's funny. I have actually only seen one episode of Mr. Iglesias, and it was while I was getting my oil changed. They just had it on in the waiting room. But for what I saw, I enjoyed it, so I might have to watch more of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real good. You know, quick watch. First season, like 9 episodes or something. Second
I
season,
love
6
that.
episodes.
Oh, wow.
So it's you know, it's fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love that. Easy to get through.
For sure.
Perfect for me.
So tell us how you envision this being staged. You know, do you want the stage to look like a multicam setup or just a regular old classroom? Is there a laugh track, an applause track? Are there moments where the characters look at the camera, you know, etc.?
Oh, okay. So, for the One Act Festival, it's in like a springtime when they also have the band on stage. So part of the advantage with this is that, if I were to get it produced at school, I would be the director, so I would know exactly how I set up everything, which is part of why I don't have a lot of stage directions.
Mm-hmm.
But so I envisioned it, Mr. Beckham's desk on the left, 5 chairs, 3 in the front, 2 in the back. And they're kind of like at like a V shape so that they're both kind of pointed towards the center. Definitely I would have where it says, you know, the laugh track and the audience applauding, those would be played over the speaker.
Nice.
And then in terms of characters looking at the camera, there's the one time I like break the fourth wall where Joe asks him, like, do you think people have nothing better to do than a insert night of the week? That one act runs 3 days. So I would want to have that character say whatever day of the week it is. And then Whit looks at the audience, pauses to basically, you know, they have nothing better to do than watch him.
Sure.
So
Nice.
that would be like the one time, like looking at the camera.
Nice.
Yeah. That's
cool.
cool.
We were actually wondering, you know, for the purposes of us producing it, just because, you know, we haven't recorded our version of it yet for the podcast. So we were wondering if you'd be cool with us putting in laugh tracks every once in a while.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay, sweet.
Okay. Awesome. Perfect. So let's talk about the ending really quickly, because it is like a bit of a paradox in a way, because it ends like a sitcom at the same time it doesn't, because, you know, Whit obviously ends up pointing at Kenny, and, you know, he sort of admits that, you know, his life isn't a sitcom, but like at the same time it kind of has that like fairy tale type, opening is left for Whit and Joe to become something in the future. So just sort of talk about that ending and then answer the question, is Whit actually stuck in a sitcom?
You know, I don't know.
Oh.
He could be. So the play, it has a really deep theme that I'm not going to super necessarily go into, you know, just so, you know, people can decide for themselves, because you might not realize the theme behind it just reading it. But in terms of if he's actually in a sitcom, I guess it makes more sense for him to be in a sitcom in terms of the idea of the meaning behind the play.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it also has that kind of, you know, extra effect where, you know, if he's not in a sitcom, he's crazy. If he is in a sitcom, he is both crazy and right.
Sure.
And then, of course, at the end where I don't know, it could go both ways.
No, for sure.
Okay.
And I think that's kind of interesting, because I think depending on the, you know, if you perform this, you know, put up a production of this, answering that question sort of changes the way that it's sort of structured, and maybe even how the characters react and things like that. So I think that is sort of cool to sort of allow that for both possibilities to be true, and then whatever the case is, letting that play out in like the previous parts of the play.
Sure.
So now we're going to get into a few bit of questions about you, about your other works that we talked about before. So we talked a little bit about the debate between Parks and Rec and The Office, but what is your favorite sitcom of all time?
Live action, Scrubs. Animated, Futurama.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. My dad was a huge Scrubs fan, and a couple of our housemates also really like Scrubs. I have never watched it, but now I feel like I need to.
I know. I feel like I should.
I know
So it's. I will say it's really, really good. My stepdad, he always, watched it. He really loved it, and I would always, go by and I would see him like watching it, and I thought, oh, that show's lame. Or I would see like one scene, and I thought that's kind of funny. But then when I ran out of other shows to watch, I watched it, and all of a sudden, a week and a half has passed and 10 seasons are gone.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll have to add that one to my list. It is definitely a commitment, seeing as how long it is, but I think it might be worth it in the end.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, excuse me if I'm pronouncing this wrong, but we have to know, who is JJ Micaiah?
That, when I first started putting out it's a pseudonym, basically, a pen name.
That's what we figured, yeah.
Cool, yeah.
My middle name is hyphenated, so it's Jean Micaiah. So JJ Micaiah, and sometimes I go by Micaiah. So it's kind of a, like J.R.R. Tolkien pseudonym.
Cool.
That's cool. I like it. It's a cool sounding name.
For sure.
It is. I like that, actually.
I will say, though, your actual name also sounds very cool.
Yeah, you got a lot of good choices for names.
Yeah.
Which is like a good thing, especially as a writer. So, like, props to you on your names, I guess.
Yeah. So let's talk about your other works that you sent us. So you wrote a play, which is the betrothal of, I think, Meriday.
That's actually the rewrite. The original is the tragedy of Rezahin.
Interesting.
So the one that, okay. Yeah. So the first time, it opens with excerpts from. It opens and closes with the excerpt from the poem, right, where the story came from. A lot of the writing just happened to be what we were reading at the time. So I have this idea. We were reading Beowulf, so I decide I'm going to write an epic poem. Later, we're reading Macbeth, and I decide I'm going to write a play. Mm-hmm. So I opened it and closed it on that poem. But yeah, no, the original is the tragedy of Rezahin, and later I decided to rewrite it. And there are vast differences in terms of theme, characters, and whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, I noticed the endings were different too, but
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, for everyone listening, so you sent us three separate documents. One was kind of, I guess, a little bit structured more like a conventional play, which is the rewrite, and then we have one structured more like a Shakespearean play with the prologue and the epilogue, and then we have one, The Tales of Grindleshire, which is purely an epic poem. So talk about this process and your decision to write all three of these versions.
Okay, so this goes, back to the original story, where basically I came up with the idea for this character, and I started writing the world he was in. And originally it was going to be a story called The Griffin Riders of Grindleshire, which was a blatant ripoff of How to Train Your Dragon, with basically renaming everything and with a different, thing. The original guy, he was like this blacksmith that woke up with no memory, and the weapons he made had like special powers, and they had dumb names. Like you had Magnesium, the Fire Sword, or Doom Striker, the Lightning Blade.
They just sound like superheroes to me.
Yeah, truthfully.
I was about 13 when I came up with this, so yeah, that was a while ago. But basically, as I started, I tried writing a novel on that about 3 times and only ever got about 3 chapters in. Essentially, basically, as I took it from the real world, it was originally going to be set in like medieval times, and as I took it into a fantasy world, which became known as Grindleshire, for some reason I don't remember where I came up with that name. basically I wanted to have backstory. That backstory involved this battle between a red and a white dragon, which I took from King Arthur. And basically that backstory was the story of Zokradin and Rezahin. And that's when I started writing the play or not the play, the poem. And I got about 88 lines in, and that covered the basic story of them. And I want to say, basically the story just keeps going. I just keep making backstory for the story and then adding it.
Yeah.
Is where it comes down to. So the poem is not finished. I think I'm at 700 something lines right now. And right now it's talking about King Morvan the Mighty, I believe, who is the first king of Grindleshire. So he is, let me see, he's Rezahin's, not Rezahin, Zokradin, depending on the version. He's like his great-great-great-grandfather.
Oh, wow. You were far back in time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it's a whole timeline. Yeah.
It's a very, and if you notice when you read the play, it jumps around time-wise. But yeah, so I just kind of decided to write stuff depending on what I was reading. I guess.
That's so interesting, and also to see how it sort of develops over time. And I love how you talk about how, I came up with these like stupid names for weapons and stuff when I was in, 6th grade. But I think it's cool because, especially when you're younger, I feel like you let your imagination roam more freely. So then as you grow and mature, you can sort of shave down some of those that it's like, all right, this is kind of ridiculous, this is kind of stupid, etc., etc. But then you can sort of keep some of those more imaginative elements and just expand upon them, especially in this. So, obviously you've talked about the Tales of Grindleshire, this epic poem. We would just love to hear you've talked about it a little bit, but just go a little more in depth about just the process of writing an entire narrative in verse like this. Like, how much time has it taken you, just etc., things like that.
So I started it about a year ago. Because I want to say I submitted the first 88 lines to our school's literary magazine, Perception. I submitted the first 88 lines to Perception for the October issue. So it's coming up on 1 year, essentially, is when I started writing it. And sometimes I will sit there, I'd be like on my lunch break, and I would crank out 16 lines. And sometimes I'd sit there and I'd get 2 for 2 hours.
Sure.
So it's because I also do music. So that's why I really like the verse, because I guess I just like rhyming a lot. So a lot of times I won't necessarily even have the story. I'll let the rhyme scheme depict the story. And so I've used this word. I need a word that rhymes with it. I come up with a word that rhymes with it. And now all of a sudden the main guy's holding a sword when he wasn't before. And so I kind of let the medium depict the story.
Sure.
That's cool. And
Nice.
I feel like that also adds very much like a musicality to it, and obviously with it sort of being in verse that, is kind of naturally there, but just sort of letting the words and the rhyme dictate it. Yeah, it adds that level of musicality and also unpredictability, which I think is kind of cool. Which I think adds like a really fun element.
It also lets you do world building, because you know how like in Lord of the Rings, Frodo supposedly wrote the books.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
In world, there is a bard named Hanseman. He's the one. This is supposed to be the Song of Hanseman. He's the one who wrote this, so it lets me basically play a character in the world as well.
Cool.
For that, yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. And it's so interesting to me because we have My Life as a Sitcom, and then we have this entirely other world, which, it's kind of hard to believe that both were written by the same person. So props to you for being able to write into very different genres and many different styles across all of these stories. I think that's really cool. And to hear you write music too is just insane.
Crazy.
So very, very cool. Props
and
to
comics.
What?
That's true. That's right. You mentioned on that too.
There you go. You are any of your writing
Multi-talented guy.
needs. Right here. We got them. But those are all of our questions right now, actually. Thank you so much for coming on. This was really cool, really fun interview. Do you have anything you would like to plug or talk about before we let you go?
Actually, in terms of my music, I actually just started, there's nothing up yet, but I have put a Bandcamp. I'm going to start putting my music. It's called 907. It's mostly like acoustic stuff. So if you like acoustic guitar, singing, that'll be up there.
Sweet. Yeah, everybody make sure you go check that out.
Yeah, and if you do happen to have any up but in the next week or so, just send us the link and we can put that in our description.
Yeah.
And if you want to find his email, you can also find it in our description. And anything else about this you can find in our description. Lauren? Oh, yes. One more thing.
I forgot. There's also, if you want to see cringier comedy than my life as a sitcom, me and my friends run a YouTube channel called The House of Cringe.
Okay.
Nice.
We just hit 50 subscribers, so you can check that out. It's as you would expect, cringy, but some people find it funny.
Yeah, 50 subscribers. That's taken off, man.
Awesome.
We will absolutely provide a description or a link in our description for that as well. And
thanks.
Yeah,
let
absolutely.
me see. Yeah, I think that's about it. So thank you so much again for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, man. We really had a great time.
Yeah.
Me too.
All right, bye.
All right, bye.
Perfect.